Marriage, especially with someone you've known since childhood, is supposed to be the strongest bond, built to last a lifetime. Growing up together, sharing dreams, raising children together, you envision a perfect life. But one day everything changes. A seemingly ordinary conversation turns into the end of your peaceful world. The wife you've trusted and loved all these years suddenly tells you, "I don't want kids anymore." But this change is more than just a shift in plans for the future. It's deeper, more complicated, and infinitely more painful than you ever expected. Can a man cope when his wife grows distant, both emotionally and physically? And behind all this, is there a secret more devastating than you could ever imagine? Before continuing the story, tell me which city you're watching from. I want to know how far this video has come. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so I can send you exciting stories like this every day. My 29 male wife says she, 29 female, wants a divorce. We've been together for almost 8 years, lived together for 4 years, and married this past October. She says she isn't happy and doesn't want children. She doesn't want a family, even though she has told me otherwise the last several years. When we first started dating, she wasn't as into it, but as we both grew up, she would often talk about how excited she was to have a family together. She says my family hasn't ever really cared for her, mainly my father. She isn't totally wrong in this. My dad is kind of old school and a bit sexist, and the very fact that she has sleeves has rubbed him the wrong way for a long time. Sleeves like a long sleeve shirt? Anyway, we have been together so long that time kind of changes these things. They get along fine now, and never really had any big altercations or anything. When we decided to get married, and it became clear that we would be together for the long haul, his attitude changed. She says she has forced me to change who I am to be with her. It's hard for me to verbalize exactly what she is referring to. We have both changed so much in the near decade together, and 22-29 is a totally different life. So of course we both have changed. I call it growing up. I can only think of little things. She's controlling in the kitchen, so I don't really cook much anymore, which is something I used to enjoy. She just does it because she's kind of a neat freak, and apparently I don't quite meet her standards. The same with the house a bit. I was born in the country and was often barefoot in and out of the house all the time, whereas she wants everything in the house to be just so. I have a bit of a hippie soul, and she doesn't so much, I suppose you could say. At first I resented it, but now I love having our clean house, and it's no problem for me to respect that for her, because even if we have different home standards, I can respect the effort it takes for her to make things how they are. She says that she has whipped me into shape, but it's not really how I want to live. She says she dulls my shine because of who she is. It's so hard to hear that. She's currently unemployed. She left her job during the pandemic so that she could gain extra income. Now that that is over, she's applied to a number of different places, but refuses to go back to her old job and wants to just draw unemployment till she finds something she likes. That one is a bit difficult for me. She has made more than me for months doing nothing, and while I understand and even encouraged it at first, the fact she wasn't willing to hustle and even work part-time while applying for jobs bothered me. Missouri is basically wide open right now, with minor restrictions, and I haven't missed a day of work during this entire pandemic. I told her as much and told her there were certain things I expect of her as my wife. I expect her to work at least until we have children, and seeing her be so apathetic about it was disappointing me. She has never contributed to savings. We have a separate checking and a joint savings account. She has almost never added to it, and even while making considerably more than me the last several months being off work, hasn't added to our savings. She has paid off a couple $1,000 bills, which is awesome, but knowing how much she made, she's mostly wasted the money trivially. I just wasn't expecting it. I came home after work, took a shower, and she called me into my room and said she wasn't happy and wanted it to end. She said she wasn't physically lusting after me anymore, even though she loved me. Obviously, this one really hurt my confidence. I work out very regularly, and while I'm not the most fit I've ever been, I was once fat and have prioritized my health and body wellness heavily over the last decade. I play too many damn video games, I think, is what could have caused the disconnect. We hang out and watch movies or binge shows, but we also respect one another's space during the week, And after a long day of work and training, I have definitely plopped down at my computer to game with friends more times than I probably should have. She says that all the nerdy things like that don't bother her at all. And that's the stuff I love and shouldn't feel I need to change everything for her. She says it's more than that. I just love her so much and was so happy with our life together. Knowing she wasn't is devastating. I feel so responsible for her happiness, and like I must have let her down. Not been doing my part to emotionally connect. But we often joke and laugh. We're genuine friends. We were planning a trip together very soon and had plans to meet with our bank about first-time home buyer loans this week. I also think that could have been a catalyst. She says I want a family and a house in the country, and even though she told me she did want all of that, now that we are making those moves, she's getting cold feet and says she doesn't. I don't know what advice to ask, really. I've just never been in this spot in life before. It feels so real, and she seems very resolute. My confidence is crushed, and I feel like I failed my marriage. I always tried to prioritize her and love her. It was so out of left field. Our sex life was regular and good. She seemed to have passion for us. I think this pandemic showed how incompatible you two are while she's suffering a midlife crisis before she's 30 years old. You want a family with kids with her as a stay-at-home mom, but you expect to work till then, even if the pay is lousy, and she doesn't want kids but is not currently working due to how disenfranchised her low wages are, while unemployment checks are double than what she was making per month. This is a situation where marriage counseling is in order, so she can be honest with what she wants and you need an epiphany. If not, divorce is also a good option in this giant disconnect. Update 1. She cheated on me. We've been together for 8 years, married for almost 1. She said she wasn't sure if we were going to work and maybe it would be best if we separate. Cited a bunch of issues that had come up years ago. However, we had worked through those and hadn't encountered them in years, so it didn't make sense. I confronted her after making another anonymous Reddit post and gained some advice. She admitted she had slept with another man, so I kicked her out. She's been home nonstop with the pandemic and was borderline depressed, it seemed. She has since told me repeatedly how much she regressed it and how much more she loves me and is connected to me than some guy she had only known for a few days. But the fact she met a guy and so quickly wound up cheating is insane to me. I've never had anything but complete trust. This rocked me and was very unexpected. We were planning on getting first-time home owner loans the week it came out. Now she is staying with her parents and we talk periodically. I've had tremendous amounts of anger and sadness, depending on the time of day. She thinks she wants to work through it, but she also is going to go to the mountains with her family for a week and think about things. I don't know what to do. On one hand, forget her and she betrayed my trust. And on the other, I've never loved anyone like this and value our marriage and potential future if she were willing to work through it. But then I wonder if she would respect me if I took her back, if it's already too wrecked, if she decides maybe the grass is greener on the other side. I'm just confused and I'm unsure what to do. I've tried to not talk to her too much while she's going because it's either emotional discussion or me being a dick, which ultimately just makes me hurt. Please help. Preferably from people that have been through something similar, but I'm open to perspectives. Update 2, we spoke again last night and we cried together a bunch and talked about our relationship. She has agreed to stay with her family a few hours away for the next weeks. They go from the 22nd through the 29th of this month to Colorado. She told me that she needs to feel if this is a mistake and that she wants no contact till then. After that, if I'm willing, she would like to talk to me. She swears she won't communicate with this other guy either, but I really just don't believe her. I forgave her for everything. We're all human and I unconditionally love her. She didn't seem keen on couples therapy and instead wants to do individual therapy for herself. She said I let her walk all over me and that it caused her to lose respect for me. She also talked about how she had intimacy issues for a while and she doesn't know how to fix that. We would have sex every week, maybe twice, and it would always be great and we would feel connected. But just the act of engaging always seemed to be more of a struggle than it used to be. She would shut me down often. It always had to be on her terms, it seemed. Her family has promised to keep me updated periodically in secret because they all love me and want it to work out. They've been blessings and showering me with love during this time. Mentally, I'm expecting it to be over. I'm going to spend these next few weeks returning to the gym and focusing on what I've been missing out on while I was with her. It will be difficult to not reach out, but I gotta do it. If this is the end, she agreed that we could annul the marriage and it wouldn't turn into anything nasty. Not that I have much she could take anyway. My friends and family have been very supportive, and I actually got lots of great advice from my original post. After we meet in a few weeks and talk, I'll update then. OP's comments. I would have never known she cheated had Reddit not driven me to ask the hard questions. She would have lied to me every day forever. Looking at her through this new lens is certainly perspective altering and something to consider. There are tons of girls who are into me, honestly. I've always been good with the ladies. I just chose this one. It was so free with my love. I committed wholeheartedly and ultimately, yes, I got burned. Perhaps I am codependent and needy with my love. I have therapy scheduled with the best around starting next week. Working through these issues will definitely help me make more rational decisions in the future. I will have the divorce papers ready for her. If she isn't motivated to love me and work on what she broke, that is nobody's fault but her. I won't continue to blame myself for that. I've spent a week doing that, and it is neither good nor true nor productive. There had been a time, maybe 3 or so years ago, I had thought I was going to break up with her. I felt like she wasn't as motivated or invested in the life we had talked about, and perhaps she wasn't in love with what I was trying to do and was instead more invested in the idea rather than the thing. We almost broke up, but she reassured me that wasn't the case and seemed very genuine in both her words and efforts following. 2 years later, I proposed. And 1 year and 10 months later, here we are. She seemed really wrecked by whatever emotional demons were unearthed in her trip. It may sound messed up, but it was satisfying seeing her look like she was really realizing the results of her actions. Then I kicked her back out, and she's now hours away with her parents. Final update. So much has changed since I made the 2 posts looking for advice to navigate a situation I never thought I'd encounter. I have been living on my own for several months now. I have filed for divorce, and it will be a completely uncontested procedure. I am fortunate that we didn't have children or owned any property together. These last 5 months have been the toughest of my life. I lost my job not long ago as well, as a result of some poor behaviors that began shortly after the affair was discovered. I've got work for now, 30 hours a week at a landscaping company, and am grateful for money to help keep the bills paid. My friends and family are amazing and love and support me a ton. I have a girl I've recently begun seeing, and I do like her. She meets many of the criteria I have for a partner. However, I still struggle with a callousness in my heart. After nearly a decade with my soon-to-be ex-wife and being blindsided by infidelity, I just don't look at the world the same way. I feel like my innocence has been taken from me, and I see the world for how it is. It does get better, and I have far more good days and moments than bad, but I still have those painful moments and likely will for a long time. I'm struggling to trust and also to feel worthy of love. I was sleeping around some at first. I get all sorts of mixed advice. Some friends say it's whack to sleep around because I'm just using girls, but I communicate everything openly and honestly about where I am emotionally and what I could commit to. Some friends and fama say to rebound and have fun and not block myself out and be too jaded. It's hard to feel a genuine connection when you just have such trouble not imagining that on a long enough timeline, a potential partner would get bored and just cheat or leave. I really want to get married and have kids and live that old school loving family life you always hear about. I've had a few married or otherwise in a relationship girls slide in my DMs, and it just really disappoints me. Where are the girls that want to love and be loved, that have morals and ethics and actually want to explore more than the superficial layers of a relationship? It seems to be a trait lacking in the people I see today. There isn't much left to say. I haven't made any major moves, moving away and draining my 401k, anything too wild. I'm enjoying living alone for the first time in my life, and I got to keep the dog we adopted together, which means the world to me. I'll hopefully soon get a job with benefits again, and suppose start moving in a direction that leads me to buying some land and a home. I want to thank everyone who DM'd me, commented, or in any other way offered real advice and console. It is encouraging to see the internet acting in a positive manner from time to time. Reddit is certainly an amazing resource. My big thing now is healing, I guess. Self-love and all that. I just wish my heart wasn't so callous, and my attitude much less brooding. I suppose it's likely only up from here. I certainly hope so. We could all use a little bit of kindness come 2021. I'm glad you're moving forward and that things seem to be getting better day to day. The friends who are telling you that you're whack for sleeping around and hurting girls need to butt out. They are not in your shoes, and if doing this will help you move on, then you aren't hurting anyone as long as you're honest, which it seems like you are. It's only been a few months, you're moving forward, and the rest will just take time. Consider some counseling. It can really do amazing things to help you heal more fully. Think of it like a scar left by a plastic surgeon versus one left by a saw. Both heal, but one heals much more neatly than the other. Seeing a counselor after a traumatic event can be the emotional equivalent of the plastic surgeon scar. Keep doing what's best for you. Buying some land and home before you start seriously dating again is wise. Assets and investments prior to getting possibly remarried down the line will keep someone from taking it from you as long as you do not refinance it after the marriage. Kind of like an unintentional prenup. Sorry to hear that the women you're coming across now that you're single lack morals, but just going to throw it out there, don't expect to find your next faithful wife on Tinder or other hookup apps. Not saying it couldn't happen, but it's unlikely. Expect to only find women who are looking to cheat or get a casual friends with benefits thing going on in those apps. You'll probably have to get involved in other social activities or hobbies to actually meet a better quality woman. All right, moving on. Wife 46F and I, 46M, together since we were 13, married for 25 years. Find out she had an affair when the other guy tried to commit suicide 5 days ago. My story with my wife, 46F, begins in the 70s. My parents immigrated from Brazil to the US in 1970. They met another couple that had immigrated from Brazil a few years earlier and had just moved to Dallas. They became really close friends. 2 years after that, they opened a business together. In '73, that couple got pregnant around the same time my mom also got pregnant. I was born 4 days earlier than my wife. Our families didn't have any extended family in the US, so we were each other's family basically. Her mom used to babysit me while my mom worked, and since I'm an only child and her sisters were born 8 years later, we were basically raised together. We were inseparable, basically joined by the hip, as my mom used to say. Our parents used to take vacations together, and when my parents took vacations, they used to take her with us. We used to have barbecues every weekend, and we always went together to church on Sunday. We were best friends. I asked her on a date when we were 13, and we discovered we loved each other. Our relationship was actually very mature given our ages. We were best friends, so it wasn't that different. We went to the same college. I proposed to her in '94 and we got married in '95. We went to the same college, and after we graduated, she started her own business, and I started helping our dads in their business. We had our first daughter in '98. Soon after we had 3 more, 20 female, 18 female. It was like a dream. We were so happy. We were living our best life. We both have very good salaries. We live extremely comfortably. Multiple properties, including some in Europe. Vacations twice a year. Our sex life was healthy. We indulged in each other's kinks. Had sex normally 3 times a week. We both professed how much we loved each other every single day. It was like a dream. This year, I started noticing some changes in her. She started spending more time working. She was always on her phone. We stopped having sex. We started arguing all the time about things we normally would never argue. She started being cold to me. We talked about this, and she told me that this year was really stressful to her. She started acting more normal, but something was off. Even our daughters realized that. I just didn't know what it was. Last week was when I finally realized that something was very wrong. My brother-in-law, 36 males, brother, 29 male, tried to commit suicide 5 days ago, which was surprising to everyone. He definitely doesn't seem like he was depressed or anything like that. My wife and I are very close with brother-in-law's family, so we were all very shocked. He wasn't able to end his own life, but it was close. Brother-in-law found him in his garage with the car on. It was a very close call, but they were expecting him to make a full recovery. My wife was very weird during this whole thing. Constant mood swings, crying all the time. We were all behind, but she was more affected than she should have been. Then 3 days ago, my brother-in-law told me the truth about his brother's suicide. My wife and his brother, who is 17 years younger than me, have been having an affair for almost 11 months. Apparently last week he tried to convince my wife to leave me for him. My wife ended their relationship, and he tried to end his own life. I confronted my wife after hearing this, and to my surprise, she confessed. Yeah, I was honestly hoping that he was wrong and that his brother was lying. I am that naive. She broke down crying that she didn't know why she did this. She called it a midlife crisis, saying that it was nothing wrong with us, that she still loved me. I ended up almost having a panic attack. I just didn't know what to do. Just packed a bag with some clothes and just stormed off. She tried to stop me, but I just got in my car and drove away for almost 8 hours. I stopped when I realized that I was in freaking Memphis already. I've been staying in a hotel since that day. Everyone has been blowing my phone up. Apparently, my daughters now know because my wife told them, which just makes the thing even more humiliating. I talked to my oldest, just told her that I am safe and don't want to talk to anyone. My wife and her family have been calling nonstop. I have more than 100 missed calls and 1,000 unread text messages. My other daughters are also desperate, but I just can't bring myself to talk to them. For the last 2 days, I have already drunk 2 bottles of wine and 1 bottle of whiskey. I just can't stop crying. I feel absolutely lost. Absolutely lost. I've known my wife for my entire life. I've known her since she was barely 1 day old. We had our first picture together when she was 2 days old. And now every time I think about her, I feel like throwing up. What did I do wrong? What the F am I supposed to do? Any advice is really appreciated. I am really lost right now. Just some advice on the practical side. Save all the messages from her, text and voice. Your lawyer will need them. Texas is not a no-fault state, according to a quick Google search, so her admitting to her affair in text or voice messages will be important. Even if you decide down the road to try to reconcile, you'll want a post-snuff agreement, since there is a business involved, and her admission of guilt will be helpful. Second piece of advice, stop drinking. Booze is a depressant and will only make you feel worse and make bad decisions. Your wife has created enough bad decisions and bad feelings already. Third, get a lawyer ASAP. Even if you don't divorce, you need to know what your rights, options, and best way to proceed legally to protect yourself are. When I met her, I never imagined that my life would change so completely. From the moment we first crossed paths, it felt like destiny. Our connection was instant, and we quickly became inseparable. We started like any other couple, engaging in simple conversations that stretched into hours, sharing long movie nights where we laughed and comforted each other, and taking long walks where we would dream about the future together. We talked about everything, our hopes, our ambitions, and our shared vision of a life full of love. We made plans for a future that seemed so bright, filled with the promise of a small family with children and the kind of peaceful days that we had always envisioned. It felt as if nothing could stand in the way of our happiness. But as time passed, things began to shift in ways I hadn't anticipated. When we got married, I thought we were solid, ready to face the world together. However, soon after, the small, insignificant disagreements that once felt trivial began to grow larger, more frequent, and harder to overlook. I started to notice subtle changes in my wife, things that I hadn't seen before. She became more distant, less engaged in our conversations, and more easily upset by things that hadn't bothered her in the past. I couldn't understand why she was changing. It felt as though the person I had married wasn't the same anymore. Even the simplest things, like a misplaced comment or a minor mistake, would seem to set her off, and no matter how much I tried to fix it, nothing seemed to make a difference. These changes were small at first, almost imperceptible, but as time went on, they began to add up, creating a widening gap between us, a gap I didn't know how to bridge. I found myself walking on eggshells, trying to figure out what was wrong, but I couldn't find the right words or actions to make things better. It was as if the love we once had was slowly slipping away, leaving me to wonder if I was the cause of it or if something else was at play. There was a distance now, an emotional wall that had risen between us, and no matter how hard I tried, it felt like I couldn't break through. And then one day it happened. The thing I never could have imagined in my worst fears came crashing down. I was sitting in the living room doing something mindless to pass the time when she walked into the room. She looked different, almost as if she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. There was an air of finality about her, something that told me the conversation was going to change everything. She stood there for a moment, looking at me, and then said the words that shattered everything I thought I knew about our relationship. I want a divorce. The words hit me like a tidal wave, crashing over me and knocking the breath out of my lungs. My heart stopped, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had been struggling with the changes in our relationship, but I never thought it would come to this. A divorce? It was unimaginable. How could we go from making plans for a lifetime together to this? I tried to grasp what was happening, but it felt surreal. I couldn't understand why she was saying this, especially after everything we had been through. We had been through so much together, building a life, sharing our dreams, and creating memories that should have been the foundation of our future. Yet here I was, sitting in shock, trying to process the words that felt like they were coming from someone else, someone I didn't recognize anymore. After my wife's declaration, I could do nothing but stand still, completely frozen, unsure of how to even respond. The words she had just said echoed in my mind, but the shock was so overwhelming that my body felt like it was no longer in sync with my thoughts. My heart pounded and my mind raced with a single unanswered question. Why her? Why us? It was a question that I couldn't fathom, one that offered no answers, no explanation for the pain I was feeling. I loved her deeply, and I thought we had built a life full of happiness, trust, and shared dreams. We had been through so much together, and I truly believed that we had something real, something unbreakable. But now, in the blink of an eye, everything seemed to come crashing down. I didn't want to believe it. I kept telling myself that this couldn't be happening, that it was just a bad dream, or maybe even a misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I had to confront the truth, no matter how painful it was. As much as I tried to ignore it, the truth was there, staring me in the face, and it became clear that something was deeply wrong. It wasn't just about a simple disagreement or a phase we could work through. There was something far worse lurking beneath the surface. After digging deeper, the painful reality hit me like a freight train. She had cheated. The words felt like they were suffocating me. My body went cold, my breath caught in my throat, and for a moment, I couldn't even process what I had just learned. It was like the world as I knew it had shattered in an instant. All the trust, all the years we had spent together, everything I thought we had built, everything was now torn apart. The very foundation of my beliefs, my sense of self, seemed to crumble before my eyes. It felt as though everything I had placed my faith in had been stolen from me. She admitted it. She admitted that she had been seeing someone else, that this affair had been going on for almost a year. A year. The realization felt like a punch to the gut. The betrayal was so deep that it took every ounce of strength to keep standing. How could this happen? How could the woman I loved, the person I had trusted more than anyone else in this world, do this to me? I couldn't make sense of it. My emotions swirled between anger, disbelief, and heartbreak, each one more consuming than the last. And then, as the reality of it all began to settle in, I was left with the most profound and terrifying question of all. Can I continue living in a relationship like this? Could I ever look at her the same way again? Could I trust her again? Was our relationship even salvageable after this? The questions came in waves, drowning me in uncertainty. Everything had changed in an instant, and I didn't know how to navigate through the wreckage. Could I really rebuild the trust that had been shattered? Or had it been broken beyond repair? This was a turning point, and it felt like my whole world was spinning out of control. At that moment, everything felt overwhelmingly difficult. My mind was a swirl of emotions, and my heart was torn in so many directions. I still loved her deeply, and despite the immense betrayal, I couldn't erase all the good times we had shared. I couldn't just forget the way we laughed together, the dreams we built, the moments of tenderness that once defined our relationship. Those memories seemed to flood my mind, making it even harder to reconcile the woman I loved with the one who had betrayed me. But even as those thoughts lingered, another question kept resurfacing. If I stayed, could I ever trust her again? Could I ever look at her the same way after everything that had happened? Could we rebuild what we had lost? Or was it too late? And if I left, I would face the pain of separation, the devastation of losing her and the loneliness of walking away. The idea of going through all of that alone felt unbearable. This situation hurt more than anything I had ever gone through. I had never felt such a deep, soul-crushing pain. I had always believed in us, in our love, in the life we were supposed to build together. But now I was faced with a cruel reality, one where nothing seemed certain anymore. The pain wasn't just from her betrayal, but from the loss of everything I had invested in our relationship. All the hopes and plans for the future, everything we had imagined together suddenly felt meaningless. It was as though the foundation of everything I had known to be true was suddenly crumbling beneath me. During this time, I couldn't help but feel like a different person. The man I was before, the man who loved with all his heart, seemed like a distant memory. I questioned everything about myself. The love I had for her wasn't blind, it was real. I believed in us. I believed that we could overcome anything, that we could weather any storm together. But this betrayal shattered that belief, leaving me questioning my own judgment, my worth, and my ability to trust anyone again. When she told me she no longer felt anything for me, that was when the full weight of the situation hit me. It was a blow that landed with crushing force. I had hoped, even prayed, that it wasn't true, but her words made it clear. There was no turning back. The disappointment cut deeper than I could have imagined, and I realized that I couldn't stay in this situation anymore. I couldn't live in a relationship where trust had been so thoroughly broken. And so, after much internal struggle, I made the heartbreaking decision to end the marriage. It wasn't easy, and I didn't make the decision lightly. I still loved her, and walking away from her was the last thing I wanted to do. But I knew deep down that it was the right choice, the only choice that would allow me to heal. I couldn't continue living in a constant state of emotional turmoil, unsure of where I stood, questioning every word, every action. I couldn't live in the shadow of this betrayal. I needed to find myself again, to rebuild my sense of self and my ability to trust. I needed to start the journey of healing, even though I had no idea what that would look like. But I knew that by leaving, I was taking the first step toward reclaiming my life, my peace, and my future. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary for both of us. After the decision to divorce, I entered one of the most challenging periods of my life. The nights were the hardest, sleepless, restless, filled with a flood of thoughts that never seemed to stop. I replayed everything over and over into my mind, trying to make sense of it all. I couldn't escape the constant feelings of loss and loneliness. It felt as though the weight of the world was on my shoulders. I missed the life I thought I had, and the idea of starting over seemed like an insurmountable task. But the one thing that kept me going, even in my darkest moments, was the realization that I had to find a way forward. I couldn't stay stuck in the past. I had to find the strength to rise up again. It wasn't easy. There were days when it felt like the pain would never end. Days when the weight of the loss was too much to bear. But slowly I began to focus on myself. For so long I had been consumed by the relationship, by the ups and downs of marriage, by the needs and expectations of another person. I had forgotten about my own needs, my own happiness. So I started doing things I had neglected during the marriage, things that brought me joy and peace. I returned to old hobbies, the things that had once fueled my passion and creativity. I picked up the books that I hadn't read in years, rediscovered the music that had always inspired me, and reconnected with the activities that once made me feel whole. One of the most important steps I took was to start working out again. I had always found solace in physical activity, and now it became a form of therapy. I committed to working out every day, not just to regain my physical health, but to rebuild my mental strength. There was something incredibly healing about pushing myself, feeling my body grow stronger each day. It wasn't just about the physical transformation, but about reclaiming my confidence, my sense of control. With each workout, I felt more like myself, more grounded, and more able to face the world. I also reconnected with old friends, people who had been there for me through thick and thin, people who had supported me during tough times even before my marriage. They reminded me of who I was before I had become so consumed by my relationship. They helped me rediscover the parts of myself that I had lost touch with. We spent time together, laughed, shared stories, and supported each other in ways I hadn't realized I needed. These friendships became a lifeline, a source of comfort and strength as I navigated this new chapter of my life. But perhaps the most important part of my healing journey was learning how to love myself again. After everything that had happened, I had to remind myself that I was worthy of love and happiness, that I didn't need anyone else to define my value. The wounds inside couldn't heal immediately, but over time, I began to realize that I deserve peace, I deserve joy, and I deserve to be loved by myself first and foremost. It was a slow and difficult process, but each day I became a little stronger, a little more whole. The more I thought about it, the more I came to understand that my life wasn't over just because my marriage had failed. It didn't mean I was doomed to a life of loneliness and despair. I still had so much to offer the world. There were still opportunities ahead of me, experiences waiting to be discovered, and people who would come into my life when the time was right. I began to dream about the future again, about the things I could do, the places I could go, and the new connections I could make. I realized that this wasn't the end of my story. It was just a chapter that had closed, and I was ready to turn the page. Most of all, I understood that love wasn't the only thing that defined my life. For so long, I had placed all my focus on the idea of love, on the belief that it was the most important thing in the world. But now I knew that love was just one part of a much bigger picture. There was so much more to life than just being in a relationship. There was personal growth. There were friendships. There were passions and adventures to be had. My happiness no longer depended on someone else. I had the power to create my own joy, to shape my own future, and to live a life that was meaningful to me, regardless of where love fit into it. It wasn't an easy journey, and there were still moments of doubt, but with every step forward, I felt more confident in who I was becoming. I knew that eventually I would be ready for whatever came next, whether that was love, new experiences, or simply a deeper understanding of myself. The path wasn't clear, but for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. In the end, this story is not just a tragic love story, but a profound lesson about trust, forgiveness, and the strength to heal from emotional wounds. Love can bring about beautiful and powerful emotions, but it can also inflict unimaginable pain when betrayed. When we love, we place our trust in others, and when that trust is broken, we lose not just a partner, but a part of ourselves. Betrayal isn't just about someone hurting us, it's about having something sacred taken away, something we believed in. That feeling of loss can make it seem like the entire world is crashing down. However, this story doesn't just end in despair and disappointment. The most important lesson the man in this story has learned is the strength to move forward, even amidst pain, even when it feels like the world is falling apart around you. After all the shock and betrayal, he made the decision to rise, to take control of his life, and to begin anew. He found a way to heal, starting with the smallest of steps, gradually rebuilding his life. This is a lesson that we all need to learn, that no matter the circumstances, we can rise again, even when life seems to have broken us. You might be wondering if you could do the same when faced with similar challenges in life. The answer is yes, you can. The process of healing is not always quick or easy, but it is a journey that requires patience and self-belief. We need to learn how to face the wounds within ourselves, accept them, and understand that they will help us become stronger. A person who has loved deeply, who has been severely hurt, may not easily trust love again, but over time, the love for oneself will be the key to unlocking a new door of happiness. This man's story is a powerful reminder that no matter how painful the experience, if we have the determination and resilience, we can overcome any challenge. Every time one door closes, another opens. His wounds were not just the betrayal, but a wake-up call about his own self-worth, about the values he had neglected over the years. Even though that wound hasn't healed, he continues to live, continues to move forward, and slowly rediscovers who he is. The greatest lesson from this story is forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or accepting the hurt, but it means freeing ourselves from the pain, allowing ourselves to move on and not remain trapped in the past. Forgiving yourself, forgiving others, and most importantly, forgiving what life has thrown at you. These lessons about love, resilience, and rising from failure will help each of us grow and become stronger. So this story is not just about sorrow, it is also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Life will always present challenges and pain, but if we don't give up, if we find strength in the struggle, we will always find the light at the end of the tunnel. Everyone can overcome their pain, and from that, open a new chapter in their lives where we can love again, trust again, and live more fully. Surely you've realized that this story does not just leave us with a strong emotion, but also a reminder that no matter how hard life gets, we can always find ourselves again, overcome challenges, and become stronger. That's the power of resilience and self-love. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel to continue following stories like this one. These stories aren't just for entertainment. They offer valuable life lessons about love, overcoming challenges, and how we face adversity. Don't miss out on the chance to be inspired by real-life stories that help you grow with every step you take. We're always updating with new videos filled with emotionally charged, dramatic, and deeply insightful stories. Hit that subscribe button and join us as we explore real stories, dramatic situations, and meaningful lessons we can all learn from. Thank you for following along, and let's continue this journey together. Don't forget to share this story with your loved ones so we can all learn, grow, and rise together in life.